If you want to get on depth with news and technology in the wireline industry, you're watching All Shots Fired with Russell Smith.
All right, welcome everyone. We got another episode of All Shots Fired coming to you. And it's been a while since I've done one of these things. I'm kind of rusty. It's been a couple months. But it's welcome. Good to be back. Today's show, we got a couple things going on. Our big thing is we're going to talk about some bond tools. We're going to talk about the hunting tool versus the probe tool. So that's our main thing on our list. But in the past month, we've had a couple of people come to our school. One guy came from Yemen, of all places. Abdullah Aziz, if I say that right. He was wanting pump down training. Now, he's working in Saudi Arabia for Al Kharef Petroleum Company. Some of these names are hard to pronounce, but they're doing pump down, and he wanted to learn how to do this. Our technology in these states is now progressing over to Saudi Arabia and other countries, and they're starting to learn how to do this, and so we're glad to help them any way we can. Another odd deal came through. David Garcia, he's with Dipole Digital. Dipole Digital is a software type company that allows a company to see in the truck off the Warrior what's going on. And what they're learning and what they're doing is they're sending this data into Houston or Midland or wherever the main headquarters is, and they have somebody watching this live as it's going on. What they're doing is they're actually saving a company man being in the truck. They can have one person in a room, and he's watching maybe 4 or 5 trucks at a time, just watching what they're doing, making sure everything's going right. So that's what Dipole Digital is doing. They're doing other things, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what's going on. So David came out, and he just learned basic wireline 101. He was a frac engineer. Didn't know a whole lot about wireline, so just wanted to pick up on some things, understanding what's really going on in the pump down world, and just be able to talk the lingo, and understand what's going on. So great guy. Had a great training with him. So that's them two guys. I have noticed it is slowing down. I don't know if y'all can see it in the field, but I can see it here at the school. The training has slowed down. A little words of advice is try to build your resume. Try to better yourself. The more valuable you are, less likely you'll get let go when a downturn. They'll keep you as long as they can. I've been let go. Welcome to the oil field. I think anybody that works long in the oil has been let go. But better yourself if you can. If you're an engineer or a pump down guy, shooter, try to get some bond logging on your resume. That'll help you. Help you keep your job. You're welcome to come here. We'll gladly train you on how to run bond logs and catch you up on Warrior. But it'll be an investment in yourself and help you keep your job. So that's one thing. Something else we've started doing here at the school is we've started offering a backpack logging service. So if we have time, we'll come out and run a temperature log or a bond log for you. If your equipment is broke and you got a customer that wants a bond log run or something, we can come out and fill the spot. Or if you have somebody that doesn't know how to run it, and you just need to fill in a gap. Hey, I don't want to lose a customer because I want to be able to offer all the services for them. We can come out and do that. We got to run a temperature log for Justin Sprinsel with Sprinsel Wireline here about a month ago, which is just simple temp log, but it was fun to get out in the field. I haven't been out in the field in years, and it was fun for me to get out and do that. Got to meet their sales lady, Kelvy Diaz. So you give her a call if you need anything with Sprinsel Wireline here in South Texas. I don't know if he's doing anything in West Texas, but I'm sure he is. So give him a call. But we got to do a temperature log for them. So shout out to Justin and their group. Okay, Well, let's get into the heart and soul of what we're going to talk about. We are going to compare the hunting tool, this is the 2 3/4 radial bond tool, versus the probe 2 3/4 radial bond tool. We're going to show the ID, how you can identify them, what makes one a little different than the other. You can be able to pick them out pretty easy. We're going to talk about what it looks like on the Warrior. Probe comes in as a telemetry. Hunting comes in as a PMON, or a pulse monitoring system. So you can kind of see the difference there. And then lastly, you're going to actually see what the logs look like running on the test well, comparing one to the other. Not much difference. Both tools work really good, but you get to see exactly the difference. And I'll point out what I think is the difference, and get to pick. So stick around to learn something. All right, hello everyone. My name is Russell Smith. I'm with Top Gun Oilfield Training. This little video, we're going to talk about the difference between a probe radial tool and a Techco, or a hunting tiding radial tool. We're going to talk about the ID, how we can identify them, and maybe some difference on the visual side that we can see, that you can quickly know, hey, that's a probe tool or that is a hunting titan tool. Now, real quick on the names, hunting titan is also known as Techco. Techco tools were bought by Hunting Titan years back. So when we say Techco, we're really talking about Hunting Titan. And just last year, Probe was bought by Weatherford. So if you hear Weatherford tools, you're talking about Probe tools. So just understand these names have changed just with different companies that have been bought. Now, to ID these tools, we're going to talk about the Probe. This is a Probe tool sitting with me on the table. The radial probe and a probe that's not radial are really hard to identify. Now, it could have radii on here. I think there's a little name there you can read. If it's a newer tool, it'll say it's a radial tool. But if it's a 3x5 and we're saying there's only one reading in here, one receiver in there, they're hard to identify because they look a lot alike. They both have slots, and they're hard to identify. I'm just going to let you know. Okay. Now, if you get a tool like that, usually you can look at the gamma ray CCL. The gamma ray CCL will always be together with a probe tool. You have the gamma and the CCL are one tool. They're not interchangeable. We don't take them apart. Well, you'll notice on the Hunting Titan tool, that's not the case. They're separate. You can put the CCL anywhere you want. You can put the gamma anywhere you want. So anyway, so just understand the difference there. The metal on the probe tools tend to oxidize more. You'll see they're kind of a orangey rust color. That metal seems to do that when they're running the hole. But that's another way I kind of tell probe tools a lot of times by just the way they look after they've been used a while. Probe tools always have the slots. These notches or these slots are for travel time, traveling up and down the tool. Not that you need to know that, but that's what that's for. Now, the deal with the slots is it makes the tool weak when you lift it up and down. And we don't want the tool to bend when we're lifting our tools up and down. The 2 3/4 tools get kind of heavy. So we have this canister we put up. So you can put this canister, helps go over the cans, and you can put it in place and lock it up if you wanted to lock it up. If I can get one of these things to go on there. Okay, anyway, crank it up. But you get it tight, and it helps the lifting of this tool, okay? It doesn't help it bend. A lot of guys will use this for transportation. You'll put it in their trucks or, in logging trucks to help protect the cans, which is really good. But honestly, the reason that's there is to help lifting. It doesn't help for the bending of this tool. So it gives us some extra strength. As for the canisters themselves, the 3-foot or the receiver and the 3-foot and the 5-foot, don't put pipe wrenches on it. It's soft. It's just a can. Visualize a can. It'll bend real easy. So we never touch any of them sliding cans with our pipe wrenches. So don't do it. All right. So we got the slots covered. Temperature tool wise, this does not have a temperature probe. It'll have a little metal probe sticking out if it was a temperature tool. So this tool doesn't, so I can't identify that. But the other tool that we'll talk about here in a minute, the Hunting Titan, it does have a temperature tool or temperature probe, so you can identify that. What else we covered? The canisters. The last thing I think we talked about is the gamma CCL. We said it's together, easy to identify. If it has a little gnarl on it, you can see a little gnarl in the spot. That is where the gamma ray is, the sensor is located. So we can measure when we do our offsets on our Warrior. We know where to measure from to measure them and make sure they got the right tool. So anyway, but that's pretty much in a nutshell the probe radial tool. Let's go jump over and look at the Hunting Titan tool, see what it looks like. Okay, so we are now sitting with the Tetco, or the Hunting Titan radial bond tool. I don't know if I said these are 2 3/4 inch tools earlier in the first segment, but just letting you know these are 2 3/4 inch tools that we're dealing with. If you notice, there's no slots here for the travel time to slide down. Hunting Titan tools are really easy to identify in my book because they have the receiver and they have an extra can here. This can is the radial can. This is the one that has all 8 receivers that read all the way around. And then you have your 3-foot and your 5-foot. So there's actually 4 cans of this tool. No slots. This tool is pretty rugged. It's pretty strong. I usually put the lifting can on this also, but it's a little more stronger than our probe tool on the lifting side. So I tend to think it's a little heavier on that end. If you can see right here, this one has the temperature tool or temperature probe. So it can read a temperature while it's in the hole. That other tool that we just looked at, the probe didn't have that. So, but this one does. I don't know if you also can tell the steel or the metal used in this is a little different than the probe. It doesn't rust. It doesn't oxidize as much. Tends to stay a little more shinier. Not saying one's better than the other. I'm just telling you the difference between a ID and these things, what the difference is. The main thing I like about the Hunting Titan is I can pick and choose. I have the CCL and the gamma. We normally run our gamma at the bottom of the tool. On the probe tool, the CCL is with the gamma, so it runs down there with it also. But normally, I'll just be honest with you, they want you to run the CCL with the Hunting Titan tool above the radial tool, maybe right below the centralizer. If the CCL makes a good signal, it doesn't interfere with the radial signal coming up because it's above, so it doesn't interfere. So they say to run it on top. So if you do run a Hunting Titan tool, they recommend running the CCL above the radial tool itself. So the signal there. Another thing that you may not know about Hunting Titan tools, they make a logging CCL. I mean, it is made for this tool. It's a logging CCL. But you can actually use a shooting CCL, and it'll work. I'm doing this right now. I have this as a 2 3/4 shooting CCL. I mean, an adapter. I bought an adapter from Hunting that will screw in the top. But it works. It's easy, and the CCLs are very rugged. The shooting CCLs, I kind of like it. But that's an option you can go with on the CCL. If your logging CCL breaks, you can actually use a shooting CCL if you can get the adapter to adapt you back to the small hole, the Go style. So anyway. But I hope this helps. This is just identifying the tools. We are getting ready to jump into our next portion of this, and we are going to compare these tools in the well. We're going to see what the signals look like, one versus the other. And y'all can determine which signal you think you like the best. It'll be up to you. But that's next on our list. So anyway, look for our next video. If you like what you see, just like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think that's our subscription channel. Let us know you like what you're seeing, and we'll keep them coming. Thank you. All right, guys, if you're needing centralizers, I got the hookup for you. I want you to call Electric Line Technologies in Broussard, Louisiana. You can talk to Derek Derwin. He's the guy that set us up with these 2 centralizers that we're using for our testing while we're in our test well. These are really heavy-duty centralizers. You will not be disappointed. But if you need anything E-Line, give them a call. They can take care of everything. Okay, hello everyone. We are starting part 2 of our comparing a probe tool versus a hunting Techo tool. As of right now, we have our probe tool hooked up. So what you're seeing on the screen is the probe tool, and the telemetry is coming in. And you can recognize it says telemetry. That's what a probe tool brings into us. We have our WVF cow, kind of like our hearing aid, make sure everything's working. So we got this thing fairly set up, about all we could do sitting in the classroom. The beauty of a probe tool is that the telemetry always shows up. I can take the gamma CCL off and the lines still show up. It won't work like that with the Hunting Titan tool, because the Hunting Titan tool, that PMON box, is only picking up gamma pulses, PMON pulse monitoring. Okay, it just picks up pulses. So a little different with the probe tool. So I like that part about it. But nothing real fancy about this. All the same, there is one aspect about the probe tool is that it can go into what we call a calibration mode or cal mode. What we're going to do is it'll simulate 5.5-inch casing in fluid. See, right now there ain't no fluid. That's why no signals are working. It's got to have fluid for the tool to function. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll up our voltage from 150 back down to 130. Okay. And you recognize all of a sudden now we're getting our signal coming into all our boxes. The 3-foot and 5-foot signals are all coming in. This is just a simulation, but it's great for us to get a calibration. What if I ran into, let's say I ran some 9 5/8 casing, some big casing, and then I go into 5.5, but I have no free pipe to calibrate. I don't really want to use a 9 5/8 calibration on 5.5-inch casing. So what we can do is go into cal mode, grab that calibration in 5.5. Even though it's not the casing you're running in, that's all right. At least I got a better calibration of what I need to do. So anyway, that's the beauty of a probe tool, what we tend to look for. To go back out of cal mode, you just roll it back to 150, go back down to 130, and it should kick it right back out. So, and it did. But that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what a probe tool looks like. Okay, let's go grab a Hunting Titan tool and see what it looks like. Okay, everyone, we now have a Hunting Titan Techo tool set up. And you can recognize, looking at the PMON right off the bat, that it's picking up pulses. Every time it pulses, that's a gamma ray pulse is picking up, and that's our counts. It doesn't have a telemetry like the probe. So just real quick, you can tell the difference there. Tools in sync. We got our WVF cal set at 1, same as the probe. Nothing changed there. But back to the PMON. If I was to not run this tool with a gamma ray, you wouldn't pick up nothing here. Nothing is going to show up because nothing on the bond tool shows up in the PMON box. So just be careful there. If you're not getting any pulses, your gamma is probably not working if it is hooked up. So anyway, but that is what the difference looks like. There is no cal mode for the Techo tool, so I can't go into this and simulate any type of a signal. It is what it is. This is where it's at. Only way I can get a signal is if I drop into some type of fluid, test tank or something of that nature. Okay. What else do we got here? I think that's pretty much it. Our pulses are pulsing down because that's a negative pulsing tool. If it was pulsing up, that would be a positive pulsing tool. So depending on which way the tool's set up on the gamma. But this is about all you can do with a Techo tool here in the classroom. So anyway. All right. So our next thing we're going to get it set up, we're going to show the two comparisons on the log, which one you think looks better or worse. And hang around. We'll be right back. Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen here is our probe tool. It has been dropped into our test well. We have calibrated this tool, I'm guessing somewhere around 1567, something like that. So we're logging up now to cross where we calibrated. Now this is a 4.5-inch casing well. It is drill stem, but we use 4.5. And the book says to set the amplitude, max amplitude, to 81. And as you can see on the log, right at that spot, 1567 somewhere, it is set to read 81. So if you look at the amplitude, it's reading 81. Now, if you also look at the signal, I just want you to look at how the signal is waving. I want you to look at the sectors. Sectors get tight in spots and they spread in other places. That is the true reading of this test well. And this well is only I think it's the age is 58, and it has the same age as me. So this is an old well. This is not something that's brand new. Most bond logs, if you run a brand new well, the logs would be nice and crisp and clean, and there's no corrosion. So really nothing to affect our log. But this is what our probe's looking like. And probe has a very clean log. It looks really good. I like probe tools and I like Teco tools. Okay, we are getting ready to jump over now. We have now dropped our tool down to about 2,000 feet. We're logging up. We're into some crappy cement. There's nothing really good about this. We're almost at the top of cement. But I just wanted to show you kind of what the log looks like without going super deep into the well. But you recognize we have a little color pattern change. We got a little yellow and the green. Maybe one side of that casing ain't bonded as good. Cement's not quite that good. Or we could have calibrated a bad spot and maybe we weren't centralized real good. But either way, it really doesn't matter. But the sectors are coming in pretty tight. You can see when we get into some pretty good cement, I say some cement around amplitudes reading around 15, 20 somewhere. You can see the sectors get all tight. So that's a good sign. That's showing that bond is all the way around that casing. But this is the probe tool. This is what it looks like. I'm wanting to show where our top of cement is because we're going to compare them here at the end of this video of did they both show the same as the top of cement? And you're going to recognize they were pretty much identical. There's not much difference in these tools at all. If you were to purchase them, you just look at the price. I think the probe tool might be a little bit more than the Hunting Titan tool. But remember, these tools are built differently. Teco has 4 cans, so one can is just for the sectors, and the 3-foot can on the probe is the sectors, and the 3-foot is all in that one can. So they kind of read identical. You can recognize this. Your amplitude and the sectors, they do read pretty dang close. They're all in the same can, so they're all reading the same. When we jump over to the Hunting Titan tool, you'll recognize the sectors don't quite read the same as the amplitude because it's in a different can where they're reading. So, but this log looks pretty good. I'm fairly pleased with it. You can see the cement's getting kind of ratty. I usually call top of cement wherever my amplified goes off the screen last. And it looks like right around 1890, somewhere in there, 1900. Oh, no, we got some more coming in. So, not quite there. The amplified is the amplified line. It's usually 0 to 20. You can recognize where the yellow is at. Okay, you can start to see we are coming into what we call free pipe. The amplitude is getting fairly high. On the color shading, we make it blue for free. Remember, when we set this tool up, we set the amplitude to read around 81 as the highest amplitude reading. So you recognize it's climbing higher and higher. It's sitting around 70 right now, I guess. Let's see if it crosses this color. I just wanted to log all the way up to where it started reading about 81, because that's about where our highest reading is going to be. So right there at that spot, it looks like it's reading right around 81. So that's our high amplitude. So that is our freest, we're calling it. So that is our probe tool. And that's what it looks like when you're logging up a nice, crisp, clean log. So y'all can decide what y'all like and what y'all don't like. Okay, I do want you to recognize on our 3-foot wave signal, look how smooth the baseline is. Probe apparently filters the baseline quite a bit because it's nice and smooth. You won't see that on the Hunting Titan tool. It'll be a little more rough. So when you're setting your travel time gate, you can't get it quite as low as I would like. So you got to have it raised a little higher. Okay, now what you're seeing is our Techo tool. So we got the Techo tool into the test well, and we're logging up. I want you to quickly recognize I have the wrong offset set on my gamma ray, because the collars are actually shielding the gamma ray, and you can tell the gamma ray spikes, or where it shields is a couple foot off because that my offset's not quite right there. So just wanted to recognize that. But logging up, this is where we did our calibration. This is our free pipe pass. We set the amplitude also to read around 81. And if you could recognize, this signal is a little bit smoother than the probe, a little more flatter, at least in this area. But I want you to recognize the sector cans are reading a little louder. And they're not quite as tight as the probe tools. Okay, we have now dropped into our cement, or the same as what we did with that probe, about 2,000 feet. And I want you to recognize logging up, the sectors are reading a little bit louder, a little higher amplitude than what the probe was. That's why our color map is not reading quite as yellow and green. It's got a little more blue in it. But you'll also recognize that our amp 3-foot is reading pretty much identical to what the probe is. I keep reiterating that can where the sectors are reading are not coming from the 3-foot can like the probe. It's a separate can, so it's just reading differently than what probe does. So didn't mean anything. It's just the way the tool functions. But you can recognize these sectors spread a little bit. But if you were to get into some really bonded cement, it gets tight, and you can see right there. You can see where it comes together. So whether or not this is a filter issue, and the Hunting Titan doesn't filter it as much, and it actually reads a little bit stronger. Maybe doesn't make the lines as smooth, but either way, tool works great. All right, we are now coming close to our top of cement. I think the last time on our one, we called it around 1860, and we are pretty close. You can see where our amplified goes off the screen. So it is reading pretty identical to what the probe was with the 3-foot. The color map is different just because our sectors are reading a little higher than what the probe tool was. We are now into our free pipe. Remember, we set our amplitude to read around 81. Now, you may recognize some of the sectors went off over 100. You see in that one spot, it just rings louder where that can was sitting than where we calibrated with our 3-foot can. So just understand what we're saying. They don't read identical compared to the probe tools. So, okay, what else we have here? We got a signal I want to show you of our 3-foot. So here's the 3-foot signal on the Hunting Titan tool. you can recognize the baseline is a little rough. I said if you adjust your travel time gate, it's got to be a little higher because you don't want it to hit, okay? Here are the two comparisons. You can see at the top is the probe. Look how straight the baseline is, and look at your Hunting Titan tool. The baseline is just a little rougher. You can see it has some humps in it. Okay, so here is the log comparison. We're logging both at the same time. You can kind of actually see maybe one smoother, one rougher. The top is the probe tool. The bottom is the Hunting Titan tool. We always said the sectors are spread a little bit more because they're not sitting in exactly the same spot as what we calibrate. But the amplitude itself looks like it reads almost identical. And I'm not quite on depth, so just look at the collars, because that is exactly the same collar. The depth is maybe 5 foot off or something, so don't sit there and beat me up on my correlating, because I didn't correlate. We just eyeballed it and went with it. I was showing here on the calibrations that the sectors were set to 81. Sometimes somebody will move the sector to set it the high reading at 100, but we didn't do that. We actually set them at 81. So just wanted to verify that. A lot of people will look at the color map to determine if they have cement or not. That's not the right thing to really look at. You need to look at your 3 foot and your amplitude. That tells you where your cement's at. We can always change the color and make a color read whatever you want it to read on Warrior. So you know how to do that. But looking at the comparisons, really the only thing I see different is the can reading, the sectors reading, and the cans, making it spread a little more than what the probe does. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that is the difference. All right, well, we're crossing what we call on top of cement. And you can see where the amplified goes off the screen. That's usually where it matches up. And you can see it's almost identical to the probe and the Teco where they're called on top of cement from where we calibrated from. Tools work great. All right, well, we are going to wrap things up here. I do want to mention on these tools, if you're going to buy a bond tool, make sure you know the history, how old the tool is. Make sure you have a place that can work on it. I know Hunting Titan talked to Blaine Beck, and some of these old Teco tools, they don't have the parts for them anymore. So be careful if you're going to buy these older tools. You find something at an auction that's super cheap. They might be super cheap for a reason, okay? But make sure you can have a place to work on them. I know Probe works on their tools. K&C Tech Services, they're in Midland. They work on tools, so you can call them. But just to double check, you're going to buy these tools, make sure you have a place to work on. So anyway, so until next time, y'all have a good month, and keep that wire line drum turning. We'll see y'all next time.